Hey guys, and welcome back to my Making Ultimate Tic-Tac-Toe in Minecraft series. Last episode, I explored some community implementations of the display system to gain ideas for my own. In this episode, I'm going to be finishing my display. I'm beginning from square one here. I needed a different system to message my display. Previously, I thought I could use an external databank and read directly from it to display the current game state. This overcomplicated things though, and it's easier to just store two different copies of the game state, each tailored towards a specific use case. My new display has a few different groups of inputs that I'll break down. The first 9 lines are a pixel select group. These come straight from the input panel and directly connect to the display. If I wanted to address the top middle pixel, for instance, that would mean I turn on signal 2. The next group of inputs are the board select. These are 9 inputs that dictate which board the player should be writing to next. They work very similarly to the 9 piece select lines, except that the player doesn't select them most of the time. The control logic does. The next input is the X or O line. This does what you'd expect. It tells the display to play an X or an O by respectively turning on or off the input. The next input tells the display whether to show a small or big image on the local board, and is mutually exclusive with the 9 pixel select lines. The final line isn't a data line, but rather a latch line. I'm probably going to call it a verification line though, as if the line turns on, the display knows to remember the data given to it. This signal comes from the control logic that checks to see if a move is valid. So 21 lines versus my original 180 is significantly less, but the real problem with the display last time was the circuitry spilling out from around the pixels. I have a solution to this though. So if we just make the piece bigger, there'll be more room behind it. Yeah, it's kind of a cheap solution, but I did also make the logic more compact. Let me show you what I changed. The final step of the display system is outputting the stored data to the redstone lamps. Each piece will need 3 inputs for the storage system: an on signal, an XO signal, or a small or big piece signal. The on signal dictates whether to show nothing or something. An unplayed piece will show nothing since it's open for the player to play. The X or O signal tells the display whether to display the picture for an X or an O. This applies to the small piece as well as the big pieces, which you'll see in a minute. Confusing? Probably. This was something I had to think about for a few hours before I knew it could work. Let's look at an example. This is the bottom of the bottom left piece. Let's focus on just the bottom left pixel for now. What we'll need to do is make a truth table to see when this pixel should turn on. I've made that up here in Paint. Now let's decide what output we want for each of these inputs. Starting with all 3 inputs off, it's actually quite simple to decide what we need. The on signal is off, so the entire piece should be blank too. This means that the pixel should be off. This applies to every state when the on bit is off. Now our table is half complete, and that was only one rule that we created. If the on bit is activated, but the other 2 bits aren't, this means we should display a small piece, and it should be an O. Drawing the O shape, we can see that the pixel should be on, so we can rate a 1 here. Let's try one more. If the on and XO bits are on, we want to draw a small X. This will require the pixel to be on, so we can rate the desired output as a 1. The rest of the states follow a similar pattern. This pixel is one of the easiest on the entire board, as it condenses down to being only on when the on bit is on. The other 2 are actually unneeded. Most of the pixels aren't quite that simple, but they have very simple expressions, no more than being a single expression. This is compact enough that it takes up very little room and is calculable on the fly. Both of these things mean I can create the entire piece logic very quickly. You can see here I have all 3 pixels laid out. After I create the expressions, I have to connect all of the on, XO, and small big lines together. That's everything though. I have a full pixel completed here. In the back, I tied all of the on, XO, and small big lines together, which you can see I've color-coded. Let's try it out. If we start with all the lines off, the pixel should show nothing, since the on bit isn't set. Now if we turn that line on, we get a small O. We can get a small X by activating the XO line. Now if we turn the small big line, we see a slash, which makes us part of the picture for a big X. Similarly, if we turn off the XO line, we get part of the picture for a big O. These are all the outputs. Our display system shouldn't require active inputs to drive it though, and for that we can use SR latches. The idea of an SR, or set-reset latch, is that 2 input lines, the set and reset, control a single bit of memory. When the set line is turned on, the cell stores a 1. When the reset line is turned on, the cell stores a 0. You'll see more of why this is important in the future, but for now we can use buttons to control the set and reset lines. Here I have my SR latch. I'm using the lamp on top to show what the cell is storing. Let's run through a quick demo. If I turn on the set line, the lamp turns on, even after the button stops sending a signal. If I turn on the reset line, the lamp turns off, even after turning off the signal. So it works, but how does it work? Well, I'm taking advantage of a more obscure function of redstone repeaters. If another repeater is placed into the side of the first repeater and is powered, it locks the repeater, meaning that the changes at the output aren't registered until the side repeater is unpowered. If we start here with the first repeater facing into a solid block, we can connect our side repeater directly to the output of the first repeater. This means that when the repeater turns on, it locks itself, so now it's going to stay powered on forever, even after the button stops sending a signal. This is close to what we want, except for the fact that the repeater needs to be reset in some way. This can be done with a double redstone torch setup. One redstone torch is placed on the output, so that it inverts the cell's data. This is passed into another redstone torch, which inverts the inverted data, restoring it to what we had before. The only difference is now we have an unpowered line that we can pull high with the reset signal to turn off the torch that feeds the side repeater, resetting the cell. This was my final layout of the latch. The lamp is unneeded, but I think it makes it a bit more clear as to what's stored in the latch. All I need to do is connect the outputs of the latches to the inputs of the display module. Since the local board signal applies across the entire local board, all of those signals can connect together. I finished all the other display pieces. This was quite time consuming, mostly because it's just a lot of signals that need to be routed around. I have a new purple line running around, and this is for the local board X or O, and works alongside the small big selector line. It just overrides the local X or O so that the correct big signal is displayed. I can give it a quick test by hitting the set buttons on each latch. This turns on each signal and allows me to address the board. So if I wanted a bunch of random signals, I can just set that here. For the full display, I just need to copy this over 8 more times. It makes things look very complicated though, so I decided just to focus mostly on one global board piece for this episode. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss my attempt at making control logic. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to ask below. Until next time.